think we're going to get started on our third presentation. Obviously, as we just heard, the relationship between school and home is an important one, and we're going to talk about that in a different aspect now. So to present how Elm Street Middle School can increase family engagement, you're going to hear from Patty Davidson and Deneen Roby.
We really want to thank everyone for listening and for coming. We're really excited about this project. We've already seen a lot of positive move forward, so we are excited to share with anyone who will listen. I am Deneen Roby. I teach 8th grade at Elm Street Middle School, and this is Patty Davidson, and she teaches 7th grade science at Elm also. And we have been looking at this issue since we took a class about 15 years ago called Parents on Your Side, a Cantor course. And we did the research then, and the research showed that parent involvement equals student success. Over the last 15 years, we have seen parent involvement continue to decline. So something exciting happened. We have this new principal, Ian Atwell, and his goal is family outreach. So we thought it would be a great time to go back and look at that and see who's showing up and what kind of family engagement do we need to provide and how can we offer it? How can we get there? So first, we went back to the research to make sure that our beliefs still held true. It's been 15 years. So we did that, and sure enough, it's clear that students with involved parents are more successful, as you can see here in the research. What had changed a little bit was the terminology. So we always called it parent involvement, and now the research says family engagement. Parent to family, because we know that the grown-ups in our students' lives are not just the mothers and the fathers. And involvement to engagement, because that really shows the level of commitment that it takes for this to be effective. And the research also shows that we see that drop in family engagement as they come to middle and high school. And we asked ourselves why? Well, it seems like a natural part of growing up and becoming more independent. However, it's really still super important that we see that family engagement at both middle and high school continue. And the lack of that engagement is the single biggest problem is viewed as the single biggest problem facing our schools today. So after our initial research, we wanted to collect some data about our perceptions of what parents show up. So we collected open house and parent conference attendance data. Our colleagues were nice enough to collect that for us, and we wanted to see how our numbers compare. And it supported our thoughts that the students in the lower level classes had the lowest percentage of parent attendance come to both the open house and the conferences. This slide shows our open house attendance, and you can see our foundation level was the lowest, and our totals were about 50% on that slide, and this is our parent conference attendance. Again, our lower level students had the least attendance, and our totals are even lower than the open house was. So now we wanted to know why. How can we bring in more families? And we also began asking the question, do families attending these events, does it even equal success? Does it matter? So we read a lot of articles and a few books, and several of them were by Dr. Karen Elknapp. And she is a senior lecturer at Harvard Graduate School of Education. She has been researching FACE, family and community engagement, for over 20 years. She worked as the Deputy Superintendent on Family Engagement of the Boston Public Schools. She served as a consultant to the U.S. Department of Education on Family Engagement, and currently she is a consultant to Scholastic on FACE, Family and Community Engagement. And Dr. Matt believes schools should focus on relationship building, collaboration, and link to learning. Relationship building, understanding that your parents all parents want their child to do well. Collaboration, really making that partnership between the school and the parent. And link to learning, every communication with parents and families, I should say families, being that link to learning about education. So here's a 2-minute clip with Dr. Matt giving some tips to teachers about those kind of 3 core beliefs.
So my 3 tips for educators would be, 1, that when you are trying to improve your practice when it comes to family engagement, that you have to really examine your core beliefs about your families. How do you see the families in the community? Do you look at them through a deficit lens that perhaps you don't see that they have strengths, or do you look at them as assets, people who have knowledge and skills that you really need to be an effective educator? The second tip, it would be that change the communication from being about negative news or bad news to positive news. And so I always say to teachers especially, make those first phone calls home, especially at the beginning of the year, about positive information, or text things about what the child is doing that's good. A lot of families tell me that the only time they hear from the school is when it's bad news. And then I think the third piece would be to really think about making those communications about academics and not about discipline. So it sort of goes with number 2, but more specifically, when you're talking to families, let them know what their children should know and be able to do. Families really want to know that information. They don't want to just know that Johnny's been a good boy, or that Susie, is nice, because a lot of my families say that's the kind of feedback we get when your child is nice. They want to know, what should they know and be able to do in October and in January and June? And they want to help you get there. So I would say that those would be the 3 things, the 3 tidbits that I'd like to share with educators of how they can do something different with their families.
So after we had our baseline of research done, we wanted to take a look at what we currently do, what we currently offer for family engagement at Elm. And this is a slide that shows all of the activities that we have to offer. And then we created a survey for our families. Our family outreach survey was asked about communication, how the parents prefer that we communicate with them. It asked about preferred events, what they would like to see at Elm offered. But it really focused on 2 of our events, 6th grade orientation and open house, and how we could improve on those. We sent home a hard copy announcement about the survey and their T2 progress reports with a link to an English survey and a Spanish survey. We also sent home, Ian sent home a Blackboard message with the Google link to the survey in English and in Spanish. We sent that home twice, and we sent home hard copies in Spanish to our ELL students. And in the end, we got 260 responses in English and 8 in Spanish. That's about a quarter of our population. So the first part of the survey of what we wanted to know is how parents would prefer that we communicate with them. And of course, everyone that took the survey answered this question. It was kind of an easy one to answer. So that was nice that we got that information. And the top 3 choices are personal email, automated phone call, and a text message. That's followed by a Facebook post. The other ones offered here are the Remind app, print communication, a mass email, or WhatsApp. So most of our families that took the survey rated the usefulness of both of the events, 6th grade orientation and open house, either a 4 or a 5 out of 5. So they rated it as pretty useful. They willingly said that if they did not come, it was either a work conflict, that they didn't know about the event, so communication of the event, or that they had an older child, and that's why they didn't attend. So then we took a look at their suggestions, and this is really what we wanted to focus on how we could improve the events, and we categorized their comments into 3 areas: communication, event logistics, and content. And this is the input that they gave about the 6th grade orientation. And really, as you can see, one of the main things that they really wanted was just to be able to see the parents, the sixth grade parents. 6th grade teachers did not typically come to our parent night, our 6th grade orientation parent night, and they just really wanted to be able to meet the parents that their child would, meet the teachers, excuse me, that their child were going to have. So the other things were pretty much what we thought were quick fixes, like communication of the event, smaller tour groups, consistent messages on the tours, maybe a fact sheet so everyone was getting the same message. Awareness of the event is mentioned throughout. And for open house, once again, most of a high percentage of those that took the survey believed that the event was useful and gave them good information. Suggestions, as you can imagine, if you've ever been to Elm, the parking is an issue. So they would like us to get some more parking or fix it. So. And other than that, more time with teachers, right? They kind of felt like a little bit of a cattle drive, right? They wanted more time with teachers. And a lot of parents suggested that we schedule the UA blocks a little differently. When they come to open house, they only see one of the UAs that they're going to have, so they really would like to be able to see all of the UAs we have. And that's the parent survey that we did, and Patty's going to talk to you about the school survey and then our conclusions and recommendations.
So after we did our family survey, we put together a survey to ask other schools what they were doing for family and community engagement, and we used a listserv to get it out, and we also followed up with emails to Manchester, Lowell, and Lawrence because we figured they had similar demographics. We also asked the mentors to fill out the survey at a mentor meeting to see what other schools in Nashville were doing. We had 26 schools responded, and 9 of those were middle schools. And then we followed up with phone interviews for the principals of Bedford and Amherst because they had some interesting responses on their survey. Most of the data that we collected was qualitative. They had similar formats for communication. They had pretty traditional open house. Some of the schools were doing student-led conferencing, which was interesting. But the best piece of information that we got was about what kinds of information events they were hosting. So the most popular event was like a curriculum night, a learning fair, a celebration of learning, followed by things with food, of course, information nights, and family events. Well, we wish we had that information before we did our family survey, of course. So we did a 1-question follow-up survey to our Elm Street family saying, of these 10 events, which 3 would you be most likely to attend if we offered them next year? And the top 3 were ice cream social, end of the year picnic, and a bingo night. So, after we collected all of our data, we wanted to organize our recommendations according to the research. So under those key areas of relationship building, collaboration, and link to learning. And then we divided it even further into what we've already done this year and then what we're suggesting or planning to do for next year. So for relationship building, we've been sharing this presentation with as many people who will listen. We presented to the Elm Street administration, our PERC committee, which stands for Parent Information Resource Committee, that Deneen and I are both involved with, as well as Jennifer and Tara. The PTO, we talked to the director of guidance, the social worker, the coordinator for the ELL night, the ice cream social. We've just been trying to get the word out about what we have found out and what we're trying to do. As far as PERC and PTO, right now they're kind of separate committees, and we're really working at building up the collaboration between those two. So we attended their April meeting and presented our findings and asked them if we could partner going forward, and that was well received. The PERC committee used that survey data, and we're already planning an additional family night for the 2018-2019 school year. We're gonna have a back to school bingo bash the night before school starts, and we're hoping that especially for the 6th grade families, the students can come into school the night before and kind of maybe feel a little bit less stressed on that first day of school. So then we had, for collaboration, as Deneen mentioned, for 6th grade orientation, that's typically been organized by guidance and administration. So we invited all the teachers to come to that event this year, in particular those 6th grade teachers, because that's what the parents wanted. The families wanted to meet the 6th grade teachers. And then that's kind of a 2-for-1, right? Because that'll bring the size of the tour groups down, because more of us will be there giving out the tours. We have a folder that the kids get at Push-Up Day of all that information, and we're working on uploading that 6th grade orientation folder to the Elm Street website, so that it'll be like a family file cabinet. Most of the questions that the families had was information that was already in the folder, but we felt like putting it one additional place was just like win-win. For moving forward for relationship building and collaboration, we're really looking at building our PERC committee. Right now it's a really small, hardworking group, but we're trying to kind of recruit from other grades and other departments to kind of build that up. And then we're trying to increase our partnership with the PTO. We went to the PTO meeting again this week, and we just sort of shared our PERC meeting minutes with the PTO, and then at the PERC meeting we share the PTO, and we're just trying to kind of build up that relationship, so we're working for the same goals. We want to know what the other groups are doing and smooth that out. This week we went on a tour at the Arlington Street Community Center, which just opened up last October, to find out what kind of programs they're doing and how we can partner with them. They're offering some parenting classes that we'd like to publicize. They're going to have a block party the last day of school that we'd like to get the word out about. We have a phone conference this next week coming up with the Lawrence Family Resource Center, so we'd like to ask them about, how can schools and resource centers work together to be useful for families. We've been working with our social worker, Shannon LaFontaine, about home visits. That's something that we read a lot about in all the different books and articles, and it's not something that we've ever done. So we wanted to, we're on the beginning of the school year next year, we're going to tag along with Shannon and do some home visits, and we'd like to share that experience with our colleagues, because we think it's a really critical strategy that we could be using moving forward. All right, link to learning. Now this is the area where we really feel like we need the most improvement, right? Because great if we get them into school, but we've got to relate it to that learning. So we have organized our dates for next year's events, like our Watch What Your Kid Can Do night, or a family fair and 6th grade orientation and open house and we want to get that out to the teachers early. We've asked administration if we can do that at the June faculty meeting, so all the teachers can pick what their 4th night is going to be, fair notice, and then we could have representatives from all the grades and departments and different areas at those events. We're also looking at revising our open house, looking at that feedback from the survey, particularly about the parking and the issues for the families that have more than one child at our school. So we did a survey to the staff at the beginning of the month to see what their thoughts about that were, and also we're working on creating some visual mock-ups of the schedule. We're looking at an idea of maybe like a staggered start, or 2 nights. 6th grade could come on one night, and 7th and 8th grade could come on another night. And then we really want to get the word out to the staff and kind of give them some tips about how their presentations could be linked to learning. For For the UAs, we had those comments about using the UA block time differently. We were able to get a hold of Bow Middle School's UA presentation, and we've kind of shared that and started brainstorming about how maybe our UAs could create something that would celebrate all the awesome stuff that they're doing, whether it's like a PowerPoint or a video or a fair kind of thing, so that families could find out about the UAs that their students would have throughout the year. And we're also starting to work on a day in the life of a 6th grader video. We got a copy of Bedford's. They did a day in the life of a 5th grader video, so we looked at that. We have our tech integrator and our computer teacher working with their advisories to come up with a pretty basic presentation for this year, but then we hope to build on that in the future. And we had heard that there was even some talk about having high school students help, with making a video for the middle school that could not only be used at push-up day and orientation, but also when guidance and administration goes out to those feeder elementary schools, so we could get a lot of good use out of that. This is the big one, professional development. So we know teachers want to work with families, but a lot of the research is saying that they don't really know how to do that. That there's not a lot of pre-service professional development or in-service professional development on family engagement. And it's such an important topic. So we feel that using faculty meeting time, early release time, in-service time, to teach people useful strategies, how to make a positive phone call, how to run a parent meeting with productive outcomes, right? So what we're doing is our PERC committee, we're taking a free online course this summer. It's that Karen Mapp. It's a Harvard course, and so we'll be doing that. We're also organizing a book group on one of her books, Powerful Partnerships. So we figured if our committee is a little ahead of the rest of the group, then we can share that information with them next year in a useful and timely way throughout the year to kind of get them on board with that. We missed the first phase there's a Scholastic FACE grant this year, but we contacted Mary Lane at the New Hampshire Department of Ed, and we're on the list for the second phase. So we'd like to get more professional development that way as well. So moving forward, we'd like to share our work with the other middle schools, and we'd also like to look back kind of at the school board policy on school, community, and home relationships, because it really doesn't reflect the current research on family engagement. I mean, you can see under open house, it says that it's to be used to disseminate information on discipline procedures. And what we found in our research is that really not the kind of focus that we need to have. So we would like to continue research and work on this for next year. We're really excited about what we learned, and we feel really good about what we already did this year, and we have a great plan of things that we want to continue doing next year. We want to thank all the people that helped us with the research, and thank all of you for listening to us today. We hope that you got an idea about family engagement, and maybe you'll join us as we move forward on this important topic. So thank you very much.